Right, the Biden administration yesterday announced the 10 medications that it is going to be allowing Medicare to negotiate drug prices over. And we're joined here by Alex Lawson, who is the executive director of Social Security Works, which is an organization that's been working on this issue, trying to get the government to be able to negotiate drug prices for how many years now?
Really long time. On drug prices for over a decade, we've been working in a variety of ways to push just any action that the government can take to lower prescription drug prices. We pay the highest in the world. Medicare negotiation is sort of the nicest one that we've pushed. It's the most obvious one. Medicare is the largest purchaser of prescription drugs in the world. And we are saying just use that purchasing power to negotiate a better deal than paying the highest prices in the world.
Yeah, and this has been a Democratic priority at least since, I say priority in quotes, because they say that they wanted to do it, at least since 2006, when Rahm Emanuel had this super clever campaign strategy as the DCCC chairman. He called it 6 for '06. And one of the 6 was, we're going to negotiate drug prices. Then, as Alex remembers, in 2009, when they finally got a majority, the first thing they did is promise Big Pharma, okay, we will not actually do that because it's not '06 anymore.
Yeah.
It's '09.
That was very specific to '06.
Yeah, no, '06 we're going to do it. Oh, '09? No, not in '09, not this time. And so they said, if Big Pharma will support us, spend $150 million defending us in re-elections, and not oppose Obamacare, we will not include prescription drug negotiations in there. So then they lose their majority. So then what happens after that in this fight between Big Pharma and advocates saying, like, this is insane what we're paying?
Yeah, I think a lot of work just continues happening the whole time. But the deal that was cut with Pharma, that has to be one of the worst deals that's ever been. $150 million is literally nothing to these companies. So, but
all the companies together just had to pay that,
which is nothing. I mean, that's like 1 hour of 1 day of profit of some of these drugs. So, great deal for them, really bad deal for the American people. Expansion of Medicaid is great if you want to think of it that way, but we didn't have action on prescription drugs through the basically the entirety of the Obama administration. Now, Hillary Clinton had a robust plan to come after Pharma.
6 for 16?
It was something like that, but it was real. And at the time, insurers were lining up to punch Pharma. They always fight each other.
It's nice when you can have industries against each other.
Which is what that first Obamacare Pharma deal was about. It was taking on insurance and not Pharma.
Right.
The correct way to do it, if you're wondering, is you take them all on at the same time. You can't actually think that one of them is going to be on your side. But along the way, there are a lot of victories. You have to move policy slowly. But losing the ability to charge as much as the company wants, right, with no basis in anything. Right. It doesn't have to show any clinical value. Companies can actually just push poison. Right? They'll corrupt the process. The FDA under Janet Woodcock get a special seal that says this heroin is not addictive, and then bang, you have the overdose crisis, right? So that's the caliber of sociopathy that you're dealing with these corporations. And so you have to be able to hit them from any angle. There was a lot of work on importation, which it makes absolutely...
Like from Canada and Europe?
Or from anywhere it's called parallel importation. A lot of stuff is from Canada, but Canada has the second highest drug prices in the world because they're right next to America. So Pharma just jacks up their prices as well. The truth is that these molecules are the same, right? It's one factory. And if it sends it to America, they're like, charge them, as much as humanly possible. And if it goes to another country that has a government that actually says, well, what's the therapeutic value of this? Let's actually figure out what the value of this medication is, and that's what we're going to pay. And Pharma, hates that. They're like, no, we would rather just charge whatever we want. And in the case of insulin, and it's not just insulin, but at least in insulin, the price they're going for is a price that's so high that some people die, right? Not everybody, because that would kill their market.
Like
but
a virus.
They want some people to die so that everyone else is terrified enough that they'll spend every dollar they have and every dollar that they can borrow to keep them or their loved ones alive. That's a cartel. That's extortion. And that is what we needed to break in any way possible. And Medicare negotiation was the one that had the most political sort of buy-in from people. As you said, going all the way back to when it was created, there were a lot of Democrats at the time. This corrupt carve-out for pharma was created by Billy Towson, which is like, in this town, I would say it's probably the most corrupt story that exists, is the creation of the non-interference clause.
Tell the Billy Towson story real quick.
Billy Towson,
Democrat turned Republican.
He came to Congress with one goal, which was to deliver for pharma. He was a Democrat. He rose to be committee chair where this was advancing. When the Democrats lost power, he just switched parties so he could keep that committee position, insert the non-interference clause, which forbids Medicare from negotiating. Literally, as soon as he did that, he just quit Congress and he went and took a $2 million a year job at Pharma.
The head of Big Pharma.
The head of the lobbyist organization. I mean, it is as clear as day. This one, so even since then, some Democrats, many Democrats have known that this is something that needed to be overturned. There was a lot of negotiating and just sort of back and forth about what the policy itself would look like. And I don't want to go like too far into the policy weeds, but if you remember, the House passed a bill called H.R. 3. And if you look at the battle during that, you can see sort of the contours in the Democratic Party of what this policy was going to be. And basically, it comes down to like weaker or stronger. And H.R. 3 is quite strong. You know, I think my side won more. And H.R. 3 would be the starting point in Build Back Better that sort of compromises down to what actually got passed. And you had some pharma Dems deliver some really key kneecapping for pharma. And because of that, you know, we don't have all drugs. We only have some drugs. It doesn't start right away. Pharma is an incredible opponent to have because they have almost unlimited money and their entire profit comes from controlling the government. If the government didn't give them the ability to charge whatever they wanted, they would not be able to do it.
Well, it's crony capitalism at its finest, as you just explained perfectly. And I want to ask about this quote you have in Ryan's story, and we can put that back up on the screen. Ryan did a great report on this in The Intercept. You say this was an unexpected victory in a long fight against an illegal cartel of 3 corporations who have raised their insulin prices in lockstep. You're referring there to Eli Lilly, Nordisk, and Sanofi. And then you continue to say the inclusion of insulin in the list of negotiated drugs shows that the Biden White House isn't fucking around. Tell us more about what this says in terms of the Biden White House, because you just explained the arc of pharma's power in Washington, D.C. when it comes to controlling drug prices. Amazing. But it's also still this like push and pull. And you have people in the Biden administration who are actually tugging on the other side of the rope in this grand game of tug of war to the point where you have insulin included here. What does that mean?
So the way I read it is that it reminds me of FDR's "I welcome their hatred" line about banks and speculators. I believe that the Biden White House, the people in the Biden White House who, they realize that if you're going to go after pharma, you got to go as hard as possible. You can't be like, oh, well, they're going to run ads against me. Maybe I'll do less. They're going to run ads against you if you even mention their name. But the thing is, everyone hates pharma. Pharma is the most hated institution in this country, according to that Pew poll that ranks all the institutions. Pharma is dead last. So pick the fight with pharma. Be very aggressive. Of course, they're going to say, oh, you can never win in court, and all of the things that they're going to say. They also said that we'd never get it passed. Right. The IRA passed. Right. They did everything they could. And, you know, I have that begrudging respect that you should have for your opponents. We didn't see some of their maneuvers coming. We didn't see some of the committee plays where they did kneecap the bill. They threw everything they can at this. But the Biden White House and Democrats in Congress understand that this issue, it's morally correct, right? This literally helps people. It's incredibly important. But then politically, it sells everywhere. It does not matter in this country where you go. If it is a room full of camo NRA hats or a parking lot full of electric vehicles, the people all hate pharma. They hate high drug prices. They hate getting ripped off.
Yeah.
And the really amazing thing is, most Americans don't even know how ripped off we're getting because they don't fully get that we pay to develop the drugs in the first place. It's taxpayer dollars that develop these drugs at the NIH, and that we give grants out to research facilities in universities. We pay for it. Then we give the patent to these companies who turn around and charge us whatever they want. The ripoff is so amazing, so profound, that it's hard to imagine. But just, I think, another thing in DC that is important is it's also so big that when you stop it, you can use it to pay for other things. There's so much money in stopping this ripoff that you can pay for enormous other things with it. You're like, oh, how are we going to pay for that? Well, let's just stop getting ripped off by pharma. And everyone's like, hey, that's a great idea. Let's do it. That creates this one-way street, in my estimation. It's going to be really hard for pharma to turn around.
And that's why pharma's strategy, as I understood it during Build Back Better, was not to try to take their piece out of it. They just tried to destroy the whole thing, because they reasoned that if anything passes, they're going to be part of it, because they can raise somewhere between $100 to $500 billion, their little provision, by not getting ripped off by pharma anymore. So anything that went through it was going to have them. Whereas if you're the carried interest loophole guys who are with private equity, like, you can go to Cinema and say, like, get us out of there. And she'll be like, okay, because that's only maybe $50 billion or something. And then she was like, all right, fine. Cinema wants it out, we'll take that out. But there's so much money in pharma that they had to stop the whole thing. And briefly, it looked like they succeeded. Like, it looked like they had taken down the entire kind of Biden agenda legislatively.
They had to work really hard to get Joe Manchin's phone number.
Right, and then until Manchin came back and kind of rescued it at the very end. What happened there? Like, obviously West Virginia filled with old people who don't like paying high drug prices. Manchin's a good politician. Why did Manchin agree to do something that hurt pharma, in your estimation?
Oh, you're going to get me in trouble here. Now, it's because Joe Manchin is not terrible on pharma. I mean, that's just the truth. When we were pushing for Janet Woodcock's removal, for her not to be confirmed at the FDA, it was in partnership with Joe Manchin.
Is he just not bought by that industry? He's just bought by
he's
coal
a coal
and
baron,
oil.
right? So but he, in his worldview, he understands that West Virginians are hurting. You know, like and
literally hurting.
Literally hurting. And pharma is not his people. So that's my estimation of Joe Manchin on this, is that he is not a pharma dem. I use that like there are definitely Democrats who dance to the tune that pharma calls, and he's not one of them.
Right. And so, what can the Biden administration still do? Sorry, sang the song of joy for what they did do. When I hear talk of march-in rights, which is when if we helped fund a thing, you can march in and tell them this is what you can charge for it. There's international price setting that we can do. There's other executive action. There's legislation at the state level that could have an impact. So what could still happen, and what has the Biden administration kind of left on the table?
There's an enormous amount that can still happen. You have to rein me in. I'm a nerd, so. But I'll start. I think one of the most exciting things is Governor Gavin Newsom in California is actually making big strides on public manufacturing. So he's bringing online public manufacturing of insulin with an eye towards public manufacturing of anything. For example, the FDA keeps this list. It's the shortage list, right? Everyone's heard of the drug shortage. Right. It's just getting worse. A lot of stuff is written about the Adderall drug shortage. I think that's because a lot of journalists need Adderall.
Like, wait a minute, where's my Adderall?
Where's my Adderall? So it's getting a lot of limelight, but this is an old issue, and a lot of the drugs are chemo drugs. This is classic market failure. So these are generic drugs. They're not hard to produce. The market hasn't failed in other countries. Just here, this is a total prime the pump type thing, and so instead of just keeping a list of the drug shortages, the FDA could just end the shortages, right? They're like, I identify it. We need 400,000 units of that drug. Okay, well, I'm going to purchase 400,000 units of that drug. Boom, the shortage is done. Gavin Newsom's work in California is showing one path towards doing that. The federal government could do a lot to make that easier for Gavin Newsom and to create a marketplace amongst the states to use those publicly manufactured drugs from California. So that's something that I think is not widely talked about, but it has a lot of potential. Importation, again, is a huge one. States are importing drugs through the so-called personal importation loophole. The loophole is so old now that it's just settled law. We should actually work on that and make it settled law. And one of the things is you could have a lot of policies done at the federal level that would incentivize states to import their drugs. This is also super nonpartisan. Colorado and Florida are the two that are taking the lead on this. There are enormous costs faced by the states for their workforce. Let them buy their drugs, the exact same drugs, from a country where it's cheaper. You have all 50 states doing that, and then, it's a national policy. So there's those. There is also the federal use, which is something that you brought up with Marchin, or just government use. The government does have the ability to say, this privilege that you have to have a patent, that's a privilege. Right. And if you abuse that privilege, you will lose that privilege, and we will allow another manufacturer to produce that drug at a reasonable price.
My dad actually texted me this morning because a drug he takes, Eliquis.
Yes.
It's a HIPAA violation on my part. I'm just sorry about that, Dad.
You're not his doctor.
That's true. I can violate HIPAA. Am I bound by HIPAA?
No.
If your father gave you permission, then
we'll go with that.
You're good to go.
So that made the list. Now it's not until 2026 that this goes into effect.
Correct.
But the prices are so insane for these drugs. He had to get on a special program that brings the prices down, but that costs money itself. It's just a giant mess. If people want to know the rest of the drugs that are on the list, they can check my Intercept story out. And also, just to let people know, Alex Lawson, I founded this publishing house many years ago called Strong Arm Press, which published my book. We got people back in 2019. So thank you to Alex for that.
Wow.
Which gives me an opportunity to plug my next one. So the next book is called Squad.
You're such an entrepreneur.
There you go.
You're such a capitalist.
It's coming out in December, and it's about basically the left from 2015, starting with Bernie up through Build Back Better and the IRA. And we'll put a link in the video here because the publisher's giving out free stickers.
Whoa!
You get a free sticker. All you have to do is sign up for something.
I'll put it right here.
Yeah, I should put it. Yeah. I got room right here for a sticker.
Plenty of room.
Excellent.
Alex, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, if you liked that video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to Breaking Points.
If you want to see the rest of Counterpoints, go to breakingpoints.com to become a premium member and get the full uncut show every morning in your inbox and on Spotify.
Help us build independent news and get the full show every morning at breakingpoints.com.